Hello and welcome to Fireside Studios Reviews. This is JL. I'm going to start trying to do some videos of gear that I have that I use, especially the stuff that works really, really well for me. First off the bat, first video, I'm going to do one of the best purchases. I'm going to review one of the best purchases that I ever made for my home studio. A piece of software from Sonar Works called Reference 4. I'm specifically going to go through the setup process to measure your system, because that's the coolest part about this. The installation, you can figure that all out. There are other reviews online. I'm not going to really tell you about all of these things. I'm going to show you at the end the difference A/B between what my signal sounds like before and after the after the corrections are dialed in. Now, how that sounds on your system, I have no idea, but it makes a huge difference in the sound of my system. I just want you to hear the difference. Whether it sounds good or it sounds bad will depend on your system. But on my system, it sounds incredibly good compared to what it sounds like without this program and without the calibration of the speakers, affecting the output of them, the sonic output and performance of them. So straight away in, we're gonna go right into the program here that measures the calibrates your speakers. So here's your opening page. You come in here. You've got this page where it is just introducing it to you. Now I already had this open, so I had these checked off. This is your checklist for what you want to do before you have everything. I'll just unclick these here and I'll show you. First, you got to have phantom power. Your mic's got to be plugged in, the reference mic. I'm just going to pause this here for just a second. Get the package that has the reference mic. Okay, you're gonna use it. It's gonna give you better measurements because the system calibrates for that specific microphone. I'll show you that in a minute. You get the system. It does your system. It also has your headphones, adjustments for headphones already pre-calibrated, or you can send your headphones in to Sonar Works and they'll calibrate your personal headphones and send you back the headphones with a file you can load so the system can calibrate itself for your specific headphones, which is actually cool. I'm thinking about doing that. The other thing that you have with the reference mic, you have it. It's got a serial number on it. I'll show you. You plug in the serial number. The system knows the exact acoustic performances of the microphone, and it compensates for that. Okay, it's huge. I'll show you that in a second too. All right. Why I say to get that is because it's a little tiny bit more money. It's not even as much money as it would cost you to buy a reference microphone, let alone get it calibrated, okay? If you want to buy a reference microphone that you don't have to calibrate, you're going to spend 3 times the amount of money that you spent on this program. So you might as well just get the microphone, then you plug it in the serial number, and you're good to go. Why? Because you're going to recalibrate. Sooner or later, you're going to recalibrate. You're going to move your position, your listening position. You're going to buy new monitor speakers. You're going to move your setup. You're going to rearrange it. You're going to get acoustic treatments for your room. You're going to change something at some point in the future, and all you need to do is hook up the microphone, rerun the calibration, save the measurements, load that file that's created, and you're done. So here's the process. There's my spiel on why you should spend a little extra money. Now, back to this checklist. Make sure your input is not routed directly to your speaker outputs. Can't have that. You're using a single audio interface for the input and output, and that audio is set to 44.1 kHz. Okay. Here's the page with the microphone. You can use the one that comes with it or a different one. I used mine. Here's my serial number on the mic. I plug that in. Piece of cake. Click on next. And then up comes this page, which shows the graphic representation of the measurement of that mic. Down here on the low end, it's got a little tiny boost across a wide range of frequencies. No problem. Up here, big issue. Okay. 2 dB up in that range. That needs to be compensated for. Done. You put in a serial number, you're done. Here's where you select your inputs and your outputs. I'm running a Universal Audio Thunderbolt. I'm hooked up to mic line 2. So I click on that selection. It says tap the microphone lightly. I start tapping the microphone. I tap the microphone too hard. It tells me you're tapping the mic too hard, you dummy. Not so hard. Next, you come over here to the right and you click on this and you got your output channels. There might be, depending on your system, a lot of different choices, okay? Don't get confused. Just understand in your audio interface what is going to the speakers. Then you have to adjust the volume to normal conversation. Make that a little bit louder than normal conversation. It's gonna tell you if you're too loud or you're too quiet. You want it a little tiny bit on the loud side.
Please adjust the volume of your output device.
There's plenty of volume coming out of your speakers. That also affects your room more, and it compensates for that better. Okay, so once you've done with this, you got that up, you're good. You're going to go on to your next page. And the next thing that you need to do is to adjust the input gain on the mic. The system needs to know that the range coming in is between a certain, level. It can't be too quiet. It can't be too loud. So here's where you fix that. First, though, it has to determine the distance between your speakers. So you're gonna put the microphone in front of the speakers one at a time, and it's gonna play some sounds through the speakers that sound like this. Okay. And you do the left speaker and then the right speaker, and let's walk through this. It's pretty simple, but there's a couple things you need to pay attention to. It gives you this little page here, which talks to you about how to position the mic, and you need to do this for all of the tests that you do that are away from the speaker, which is most of it. It shows you want to keep the mic in your listening spot when you're doing this test. You want to keep the microphone at ear level for all of the tests, pretty much. You want to aim between the speakers, even though it's an Omni mic, you want to aim it, okay? And then you want to hold the mic away from your body. Try and turn your body if you can. Try and minimize any reflections that might come off of you and get into the mic. Maybe wear a big fuzzy sweater or something. Next, you go to this page, and we're going to adjust the input on the audio. It's going to play those sounds. I don't think you hear them in this video, but regardless, you get your mic into your listening position at ear level for this test. Okay. Once you got it, you're holding it out away from your body. You've done all of that. We need to set the gain. So you get yourself into position and you come down and click on this thing to start measuring. It's going to give you a 5-second countdown. So if you have to click on this and then get back to your listening position, you can do it. Okay. Here's your countdown. And then it starts that. Okay, good. You're hearing this. Excellent. Now, you can see on here that my level's too low. The Universal Apollo interface doesn't have the input gain knobs. You have to do it in the computer, on the controls in the computer. So it took me an extra minute to get, back to my mouse and do it. You're dialing it in, adding the gain until you get up into that range, and then it's going to say, okay, perfect, you're good. Then it's going to give you this little test. It's going to test the signal, make sure it's good, and then it's going to give you a thumbs up. Positive reinforcement, you did a great job, awesome, you're cool. Next, we're going to locate the distance between the speakers, which is actually kind of cool. This is a little bit of science voodoo here, but it works really well. Don't stand in front of the speakers. On one of my speakers, that's a problem. I stand in front of it, but I stay away from it. Position the microphone in front of the mid-range driver, half an inch to an inch away. Here's your, picture of where to be and how to do it. Start measuring. Left speaker first. Here's your countdown. Here's your, will you hear this sound? Yes.
Stay where you are.
Okay.
Measurements in progress.
It tells you to stay put. Then it starts clicking. Then it starts doing this funky stuff. And this gets quieter and quieter and quieter. And it goes through, and you just kind of stand there and hold the mic as still as you can. If you got a three-way driver, use the mid-range. If you got two speaker, use the bottom speaker like it shows you. Then you want to go over and duplicate the same process on the right. Same thing, 0.4 to 0.8 inches away. Just have it close. Here's your countdown. You're going to hear the same thing. Stay where you are. Measurements in progress.
Measurements in progress.
Cool. Got it. It's ticking away and doing this little funky thing. And it records all of this data into the system, and then it runs its calculations. This one took a little bit longer to do the calculations. I'm not sure why, but done.
Right,
Here's your thumbs up. Okay, I'm awesome. Thank you. And what it told me was mine was 3'9" from center to center on speaker, which is spot on. Don't ask me how it does that. I'm not a acoustic engineer. Next is you got to get your listening spot so it knows where you're sitting when you're listening, so it can optimize the sound for that specific spot, which is amazing, but it does. Same deal. You're going to line yourself up like it is in a picture. You're going to start your countdown, holding your mic at ear level away from you. And it starts doing this it does this little chirp thing. It just locates the microphone. I'm 2'6" away from each speaker. I'm centered. I should be a little further back, but I don't have room. Good to go there. All set. You can adjust those manually if you need to, but I've never needed to. Okay, now comes the big enchilada. We're going to do the test on the whole room and the speakers. I'm going to calibrate the speakers for what they do. We're going to calibrate the speakers for the room, the effects that the room has on the speakers. It's going to do everything. So you get to this page, you click on next. It's going to give you this refresher course on holding the microphone, listening spot. Actually, that moves around, but that's okay. Keep the microphone at ear level, aim between the speakers, hold it away from your body. Yes, I remember. Thank you very much. This is a signal you get when it needs to locate the microphone. Okay, and this over here is a signal when it's testing. Then you come in here and you start measuring. It's going to give you a countdown. Then it's going to start the test, and you got to hold the microphone out in front of you, away from your body, and move the microphone until it lines up in the screen with this space. Remember, you're holding this at ear level, okay? And you're aiming it in between your speakers, just like it's showing you on the picture. And while it's doing that clicking, you're moving the microphone around, and you're seeing the microphone move on your screen relative to where you're holding the microphone in real space, which is real cool. So this is a 2D representation of the position of the microphone. You have to do your best to hold it in the Z-axis, which is the height off of the floor, equal to your listening spot where your ears are when you sit. That's not super, super critical, but do your best. Once you get the microphone in that circle, you want it as close to that dot as you can, but it just needs to be in the circle, okay? It's moving you around. You move everything out of the way so that you can move around away from your speakers and everything. Don't have a chair or anything sitting there in your way. Okay, you're going to move around. You're going to take I think it's 37. I didn't see it when it started. I'm pretty sure it's 37 different measurements. This thing has you move all over the place. And I don't know if you can hear it in this recording, the sound of it doing the test, but the volume can change also. It can adjust the volume. Sometimes I notice the speaker volume on one side is louder than the other, especially if I'm closer to that speaker with the microphone. That speaker might be quieter. It's amazing. It really is stunning. And the whole time you're doing this, you're watching this in real time as I did this test while I'm talking to you, telling you about it. It's amazing. It's telling you, here's your visual reference on what you're doing. It's giving you instructions on your left side. measuring in progress. It zips through that sine wave. Measurement successful. Move the mic to the indicator. It's walking you through this step by step and telling you how many steps you got left, counting you down as you go. Okay? You have to be a little patient. You have to stay focused with this. It doesn't take that long. You think that it does. You're getting into it. You're like, oh, how many more? I don't know how. Again, this is all scientific voodoo, okay? They've figured out that the minimum number of measurements that they can take to get an accurate reading on your speaker system and your room and how everything's interacting with each other and what they need to do EQ-wise to correct for that, to give you a true reference grade audio production out of your speakers from your system, okay, calibrated to your speakers in your room. They figured 37 measurements is what we need minimum. I have seen reports where the professional guys do this and they're taking measurements for an hour. You know, this takes like 10 minutes, 20 minutes max to go through the whole thing, start to finish. And they've really done a good job making this extremely easy to do. This is not hard, folks. This is a piece of cake, okay? So, again, you're walking through here. A lot of these positions overlap. If you're starting to see a pattern here on what this thing's doing, it's hitting not a completely geometric pattern, but it's got a lot. It's really covering a lot of ground, all around where you're going to be sitting, which is right in the center of all of these readings. So, what I've found, just talking while the last 13 of these things run, what I've found is that my speakers sound good now in the entire room, no matter where I am. The sound of these speakers sounds great as compared to what it was before, which I'll A/B that for you later. But you really can't hear the difference because you're not here listening to these speakers. But I'll tell you straight up, I thought my speakers sounded pretty darn good. I'm running the JBL, 5-inch with the tweeter monitors. They're not the new Mark IIs, they're the older version, but they sound great. And I have a 10-inch 400-watt sub, down on the floor in between them. And when I dialed that in, I dialed it in by ear, listening to some music, and I'm like, oh man, that sounds really, really killer. That sounds great. But then some of my mixes didn't translate, and I'm like, what is wrong with this? And I noticed when I turned up my system beyond a certain point, the sound just got really mushy, muddy, and lack of definition. If I really push the volume, which the system can push the volume. This program, the calibration sounds incredible. The clarity now is awesome. And when I crank this system up, it just gets louder. It doesn't get mushy. It doesn't get muddy. It just gets louder and punchier and fuller. It rattles the walls in this place, and it still sounds great. So this makes a difference. There's my 2 cents on, the A/B for me. A before, yeah, I thought it was really good. My speaker sound. B, now I know it sounded like crap. Okay? Now it sounds good. Now if I have this shut off and I'm not listening to this sound through these, I can't stand it. I can't even stand to listen to it anymore. I know how bad it is. And I hear it as soon as I shut this off. I hear it. I know it's not, this isn't working. Okay, so now we're done. See, I talked for a couple minutes there, and look, we're done. There's all your measurements. You want to come over here and show the results. Here's my results, which are unbelievable. I got way too much bottom end. You're talking over 12 dB right there. That's insane. That's way too much bottom end. And over here on the right, I'm actually below where I need to be. This is a excuse me, this is a really bad, system. It's really messed up EQ wise. So I come up with my name for my profile, beer can, because I always joke this place sounds like a beer can to me. And I save that. and it says, okay, you're done. I'm going to launch system-wide, which on your Mac will run everything through this system into your interface and out your speakers. It'll sound great no matter what you're listening to. Okay. Now, right here, I'm gonna just show you this real quick. This pull down and everything. I'm gonna switch over to a different video that I took after this because I needed to tweak something in this and make this work. So I'm gonna stop this video right here, and I'm gonna go to my second video. Coming back to this, up here, you've got this screen, okay? I'm gonna come down here, I'm gonna turn this on, and I already changed this before, but I'm gonna show you. You've got these different selections that you can show on your screen, including this one, filter phase. This is really important. You could do the limits, you target, your correction, before and after, and it shows you left and right because it adjusted the left and right differently. Here's the big thing, linear phase. See that orange line? It's going, this is all of the adjustment to phase of the different frequencies because of the EQ corrections. If you put this to linear phase, that line goes flat. So what that does is all of the corrections that this makes, which you can see here, are pretty drastic on my system, which would put a lot of stuff out of phase in my different frequency ranges. Switch to linear phase and now it's flat, okay? And you want that. It adds latency, but it doesn't matter. Now here's something I recorded before. This is with the system shut off. This is what it sounds like.
Thick dust among many corks lined up on the shelf, and bats in the attic we share.
Now the system's on.
We share. There is smoke to kill mosquitoes waiting just above to drink our blood, and gas that we light from a lamp when the sun goes down. My love wakes shaking with nightmares, and the night air.
This shows you the difference that it made in the correction that it applied to my system. Over here, there's a safe headroom thing. I turned that down a little tiny bit just to give myself a little bit of protection in my speakers. There's lots of other things in here, which options where you can adjust bass boost or target curves or limit controls. You can readjust your limiting spot. You can switch it to mono. The whole thing is just real straight up and easy. And that's basically, in a nutshell, what I wanted to show you. The installation process, really simple, really easy to do. And then a little A/B of what was being sent to my speakers before, and then what was being sent to my speakers afterwards to compensate for my speakers and the room. And you can hear the difference that this program applied to my speakers. Your speakers are going to be different. Maybe your system is a lot better than mine. Maybe this doesn't need your system doesn't need anywhere near as much correction as my system did. But I can pretty much promise you that your system needs correction. So, like I said, this is my little review on it. This is my demonstration of the installation, and in my honest experience, my opinion, this one program is the best money that I have spent invested in my home studio, bar none. Speakers, programs, plugins, it's all good. You know, I've spent a lot of good money on good plugins, like the Fab Filter stuff is fantastic. I'm going to show you a couple of those in other videos. The speakers that I got, they're the less expensive kind of speakers. I think that's one of the reasons why this program actually makes such a big difference, is because the speakers that I'm using are not expensive speakers at all. And, I can't afford, a nice set of, focals or ATCs or something like that. I don't have that kind. I don't have, $5,000-$10,000 to spend on monitors, studio monitors. I wish I did, but I don't. But this program helps me get the best possible performance out of the gear that I already have. And it can do the same thing for you. So thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Leave a comment down below if you like, and let me know, good or bad. Just try and be nice. I'm just a humble home studio nerd, just like a bunch of other people. So have a good one. Take it easy.